It can be so easily forgotten that sin is deadly. In fact, we can put the damning consequences of sin so far out of our minds that when we come across sin's cost in Scripture, we can get pretty judgmental about God. We see it as simply God being unfair and unfeeling. It's like in the Old Testament reading from today out of 2 Samuel 12, 1 through 25. Please do take a moment and read that whole section for yourself to see the context. But I want to put our attention on verses 13 and 14, and this is how they read. David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, the Lord has put away your sin. You shall not die. Nevertheless, because by this deed you have utterly scorned the Lord, the child who is born to you shall die. Who in blazes does God think he is, killing an innocent child because of David's sin? After all, you and I wouldn't be so callous or cruel. That's just simply unfair and wrong of God. What about compassion and love, or mercy and justice? Yes, it's easy to judge God in this way, especially when we forget that it's we who've been unfair and callous and cruel and unfeeling toward God in the first place. We've been the ones to reject the love of God. Oh, yes, we could point to Adam and Eve, and we'd all be glad for that, since they're the easy targets. And it takes the focus off of us and our sinfulness and our wrongdoing. But look at the text we just read. David confessed his sin, and Nathan told him of God's compassion to him by saying, the Lord has put away your sin. So the Lord is telling David through Nathan that he is forgiven. But there's a cost to forgiveness. Payment is due for wrongdoing. The scorn with which David treated God leaves a debt to be paid. And in this case, so we and David can understand it, that payment for scorning God is the life of David's child. Sin is a deadly thing. Always has been. Always will be. It is not a trivial matter or something to be taken for granted. It never has been and never will be. Again, in this case, it cost David the life of his child. In your case and mine, it cost God the life of his child, his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. Remember that elsewhere and in more than one place in Scripture, we are reminded that without the shedding of blood, there can be no forgiveness. And so for you and I, God shed the blood of his child so we can have the debt of our sin paid by his blood, just as David's sin was paid by another. Take from this story a reminder to not toy with sin. God did not toy with sin, but dealt with it in the most costly way. Take also from this story that because the debt has been paid, what Nathan said to David, he also says to you, the Lord has put away your sin. In those words, we have cause to rejoice and be truly glad. For God has granted us in those words the blessing of forgiveness now and forever by the work of Jesus. His blessings be with you today. Goodbye.